everyone, it's Allison. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be stretching the use of our dies using the Spellbinders Large Die of the Month for October. So here is the card that I made, and if you've already seen the Large Die of the Month, you might be a little confused because this looks nothing like it, right? Well, like I said, we're stretching the use of our dies, and the next picture is actually a screenshot from the Spellbinders website. This is the Christmas boutique. This is the Large Die of the Month kit. So it is intended to make this cute little boutique with all these florals on top. So here are the dies. And you see that main large die cuts out the boutique with all the foliage, the base of the foliage. And there's a roof and a fence and the door and little windows and a Christmas tree. And then of course, all the foliage that goes on top of the base. And, you know, a cute little awning. And the word Noel. Okay. I used that big base to cut out 4 pieces of green cardstock. And you may have already guessed what I'm about to do. Yep. I'm going to cut all of this foliage off. And at first I'm going to cut it with a scissors, and I'm being careful because I do intend on keeping the basic shape of the boutique itself, because I can make a card with that and actually make a boutique. My plan is to make a little boutique without the foliage on top. Again, because I like to do things different with my kits. So I've cut the foliage off, and now when it turns a corner, I'm just going to carefully snip it so that I have a clean, nice edge. So I have a craft A2 card base. This is 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. And I am gluing this onto the side. So basically I'm creating a frame with all this foliage. And I had left the foliage intact along the side. So you'll see like there's a little thin strip of cardstock holding that all together. I cut it that way because it's just easier to glue it on all at once. And now I can come in and just trim that part off the edge. And I found it easier to just trim it with my trimmer because you just get a nice clean edge. All right, so now I am going to take another piece, and because I'm cutting in on a short edge, and obviously this foliage was not intended to do this, I am just going to make it work. So I'm going to snip off this little corner. And I will keep that little part on the side over there. And I'm really just kind of winging this. I actually really wasn't sure that my idea was going to work at first, but as soon as I started doing it, I was really excited about the idea. If you've seen me or my videos with the Spellbinders Club kits, there are very few instances where I actually make what the kit is intended to make. And it's not because I don't like what the kit does. I just personally like to do things different, and I like to show you different ways to use your kit, because if you can only use your kit to make one thing, then that just gets a little boring. I mean, maybe you want to make 10 cards that look the same. That's great. I personally don't mass produce, so I like to do something different every time. So hopefully when I do different things like this in my videos, I hope that it, inspires you to also think differently. So again, I'm putting this in my paper trimmer, and it just gets a really clean edge along the sides because, I really want it to look like it was intended to be a frame. So again, I'm just piecing it, and I'm making sure that that little sliver of cardstock that's holding all that foliage together is just hanging off the edge of that side. All right, so I will go ahead and trim that, and then there's just going to be one little sliver that I need to fit on the side. So once I have all the greenery basically on the card, I am going to die cut all of the pieces, you know, the flowers, and there's actually leaves that go on top of the leaves. So what you're seeing right here is kind of the base for everything. And then you cut out the separate flowers and some of the separate leaves, and you glue that on top. So here you'll see nothing's glued down yet. I just cut everything out. So for the berries, you may have seen me make berries before. I like to double up my berries just to give them dimension. And these berries have a little hole in them. And I like to put something behind that. So I cut my berries in 2 different colors, and I'm putting the darker berries down first. And for the leaves up in the corner, the leaves actually go down first. So I'm gluing these leaves down before the berries. And then in a second, you'll see when I actually come on with those lighter berries, I'll kind of pivot the berry so that the hole in the pink, in the lighter berry that goes on top of the darker berry where there's not a hole. So basically where there's a solid part of that dark berry, that's where I'll put the hole for the top berry, if that makes sense. So what you'll see that darker color through the hole of the top berry. I'm making this very difficult when it's a pretty easy thing. So you'll see that that's what I just did. I'm picking up the lighter berry, and I'll just position it so that basically I don't want the holes lining up. All right, so now I'm just continuing to go around and adding my greenery, and you just kind of follow the pattern of the lighter color green base. And there's some flowers, and here's kind of a top piece of the flower. Now these particular little flowers also have a center detail. I don't think I showed that in this video, but you'll see in the final card I did come in, I think, with that lighter color pink. And I added that little detail into the center. All right, so now for the poinsettias, I like to leave dimension. So usually what I do is I'll glue that bottom layer first. And Spellbinders has a lot of little poinsettias in different sets, and they're usually the same. They usually have like 2 pieces like this that go together. So I glue the first part down. And then for that top piece, I usually just glue that in the center. And that way it just creates a little bit of dimension, and those leaves can lift up a little bit. I just think it gives more interest. All right, so for the center of the berries, I decided to do just tone on tone. So this is a little die that cuts the top and bottom piece. And I just did tone on tone. This is the same color as the poinsettias themselves. But you can really get colorful with these. You know, I could have done the pink for the center, but I don't know. All right, so now I had debated. I was going to leave some stuff hanging off the edge, but again, I really wanted this to look like it was intended to be a frame. So here I am snipping everything off. And I know earlier you saw me using the paper trimmer sometimes to snip. I don't know. Sometimes I use my scissors, sometimes. But like earlier when it was a whole edge that I was snipping off, I just like using the paper trimmer because it just results in a nice clean cut. All right, so here I am filling in, not really gaps, but you know, I wanted to add a little bit more red to the design, and I also added a little bit of foliage as well, just to fill in some areas that I felt needed it. So for instance, like the poinsettias at the top of the screen, there's a little holly leaf behind those. Those I added. And these little red pieces are ones that I just snipped off. Remember when I trimmed everything off the side? So I didn't have to cut new flowers. They were already just snipped off. So I figured I have them, I might as well use them. And that particular piece, I was covering up something that I had tried to fix before. So it was kind of I figured I will just cover it with a little red petal and you'll never know. All right, so now I am pretty happy with how everything looks. I'll add one last little sliver of a petal. And we're going to call it done for now. Now for the sentiment, I couldn't really decide. So I made this. This is a stencil from the Layered Merry Christmas Foliage stencil. This comes separately or there's a matching die, and I obviously have the matching die. And I had used the same craft paper, and I used distressed oxides in Worn Lipstick and Festive Berries. And the colors look great with the card. And if you ever want to ink on craft, oxides are great for that. And I really loved that sentiment. I felt like it kind of stole the show though. So I decided to go with this little sentiment. This is from the Christmas Die and Glimmer sentiments. And there's a lot of sentiments to choose from. I think they're fun because the greetings word on this is hot foiled, and the seasons is a die cut. So I used the same green for the base that I had used, you know, for the base of the leaves in the little boutique. And I used green foil to kind of bring in the dark green from the leaves that I had added. And for one last embellishment, I think these gems came from the Make It Merry Christmas kit from Spellbinders. So I'm just adding those to the center of the poinsettias. And actually here you can see where I added in those centers for those pink flowers. And those are just part of a little die cut in the kit. And that just adds the final little bling. And I like how just adding a little bit more shine to kind of tie in with the shine from the foil on the sentiment. And there is the final card. And I really am happy with this card. I think it looks like it was intended to be a frame. And I think it's just a great example of stretching the use of your dies. And there you can see how the top of the poinsettias are kind of lifted up. And there you go. I hope that this, again, inspires you to look at your dies in a different way, to try to stretch the use of your kits. I personally find it challenging and a lot of fun to do that. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you liked this video, give me a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. And subscribe. I would love to have you here. Thanks again. Have a great day. Bye-bye.